Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Guns of Navarone, RMP, Troy Shuka, Bosnail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dale West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, theflatearthchannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. I'm going to raise the mic on whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
So yeah, I had to go looking for it.
Hey, 10th man.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, Redman.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good.
It's going.
I'll be back. I gotta get my tea.
Okie dokie.
So yeah, the other day I was 2 days in a row, I was getting out the truck. It was about, I want to say it was like take that back. It was like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I could see the sun and the moon up in the sky at the same time, not too far apart from each other.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah. It's like I told a friend of mine, we were standing there at the job and I seen it and I was like, what's blocking that moon right there? The sun's right there. He was like, good question. I left it at that.
I mean, I'm not going to say it does or doesn't work in the heliocentric model, because usually when I've had these things suggested as not working in that model, then someone shows how they would work or could work in the model. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong, but by the same token, most people have never looked up at the sky very much. They don't really give it much consideration at all. So regardless of your motivation, good.
Well, it was just more or less, I just pointed out just like, maybe things ain't what you think they are. But I just left it at that. I didn't go too far into it with him.
Sure. Statement of fact, though, really, isn't it? Things are not how you think they are.
Or like, whose song is that? This world isn't what you think it is. Wow, I like that track.
Say again.
I can't remember who does that. It's on somebody's YouTube channel, and it goes, "This world is not what you think it is." It's like the intro in the beginning of his videos.
I know the song. It's one of those channels. He does a lot of music with his pictures. It's not a live type of show at all, but
John Smith, isn't it?
Who?
John Smith, is it not?
It's got a different name for the.
Got a person's name as the channel name. I know exactly who you're talking about. This world is not what you think it is.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes. I have a crappy mic, so
I'll find him. I'll find him.
Yeah, you can. I didn't catch your first part of the conversation, but that's pretty much true of the whole heliocentric model, though. A lot of things they say about the model isn't what we perceive whatsoever.
Yep. Let me see. Let me see if my delivery's here. Give me just a second.
It's going to really bug me if I can't find his name now. John Smith?
Here, I'll look at my subscriptions. I'll see it there, I'm sure. Oh,
I don't think it is John Smith.
it is no. It's a different name for the channel, I believe.
He's made a video about me. I should really know who it is. The name's on the tip of my tongue. No, I can't find it. I'll give up.
I'll find it. I'll find it. Is it the one that has hoax, Hoax, spelled
Yes.
like different?
Yes.
Yeah, that's that one.
Yeah, it says the word hoax while that song plays.
Yes, exactly. Tell me what is it? Tell me what you love.
No.
That's one. No, that's one channel. Yes, fun stuff too. How come these people get to play music all the time?
Well, I'm sure it's not copywritten music, or if it is, they're just happy to give up their monetization status for the sake of using a nice song.
So how do you kind of get around that? As far as like when you like make videos and you put music in the background, do you have to just use a different algorithm or something?
They use royalty-free music.
Royalty free music, right there.
Yeah. If you don't, you have to give up the monetization to the artist that's made the music.
I'm nowhere near that with the subs.
Yeah, that was a real problem for me when I was doing audio equipment, because you'd go to a show or a demo and all you'd ever get to do was play whatever music the customer wanted to play. Now, if you happen to film it, that would mean that you were filming it playing Dido or whatever the hell they were playing, and you still wanted to publish the video to show the equipment working, but by the same token, you couldn't monetize it because everything was using commercial music. Now, for me, I just accepted that, but, you know. Now there's a whole library, though, that YouTube have provided a whole library full of royalty-free music that you can use.
Didn't you one time say they did that, but then you use it, then they hit you again, even
No,
though
that
you
was
went to
Apple.
that file?
No, that was Apple.
Oh, that was Apple.
So yeah, they give you a piece of software to use to edit stuff, and they give you what's claimed to be royalty-free music. You stick a few of them on, and they go through no problem. And then you use the odd one, and suddenly it's being monetized by the artist. And you're like, hang on, why is this on iMovie then? You know.
That's right.
Now, YouTube give their own library. They give you access to a complete library of royalty-free music that you can use.
Where do you get the YouTube music on that? Because I use that iMovie music.
If you just typed in YouTube royalty-free library into Google, it'll get you there.
I got you. Man, trying to find the station through all my subscriptions is taking a while. Hey, that show yesterday was a classic one. It was fun to jump in for a little while. My power went out, and I was waiting for it. So fun joking around in chat with it.
Yesterday, I do remember what we were talking about because it was something specific that I wanted to talk about, which was what are the benefits, generally speaking, of the globe and that deception. In other words, on a to spin it from being we've been deceived, etc., etc. It's like, how does this benefit the powers that should not be if you did still want to look at it in a negative light? And I think we made some progress. It's interesting to sit on the other side of the fence and discuss how it's a beneficial thing to enhance your own understanding of the argument. What was more interesting was that there was nothing offered up from the people in the chat that were on the Globe side. Literally not a single thing. I found quite... I thought there'd be at least something that they'd say, well, I benefit because... And then, some detailed explanation or even vague explanation of how it benefited them. But we didn't seem to get that from the in the participating live chat.
Yeah, we kept it alive ourselves, and we had various views from our side, but no one jumped in from their side whatsoever.
No.
Hold on. Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Why is it that you were asking the question at all?
Because it's in the same way as if you've got a good understanding of your opponent's argument, you'll be a better opponent in defeating the argument. So we often question the motivation, but in order to understand it, short of divining our opponent's thoughts, you can only discuss it amongst yourselves using your own experience. So rather than attempting to divine the thoughts of our opponent, now that we're in a different position to them, it's much easier to try and relate to your opponent from your own perspective and try and get a take on it that way.
You don't think it's a difference between knowing and believing? Because when Flat Earth typically says we can empirically observe that it's flat, we're not believing that. It's not a belief system. But when you talk with Globers and you say, how do you know these things? They're going to give you a belief rather than being able to actually show you why they believe it at all, it's a huge difference. But I don't think there's a benefit of knowing how they think. They're just believing things.
No, not how they think specifically. More how the deception would benefit an individual.
Well, it's easier to believe in something to know something as an empirical fact. There's a big difference. It's the difference between you wanting versus what you actually like, the painful fact of reality.
So you're saying,
and the painful fact of reality is that we don't live on a ball. We never measure curve. We can't even observe curvature. They can't distinguish curvature from a fraction. There's a lot of problems with just believing things versus knowing things.
I totally agree. And part of what came out in discussion yesterday was that to not have to worry about knowing things and just without realizing it, believing something is empirical, i.e. a contradiction. It's not empirical, it's not known. In fact, it's completely opposite to what they've told you. But not having to concern yourself with that is a seeming benefit for the general masses. Well, it's already been figured out. I don't need to worry about it. That's a seeming benefit, right?
Right, and we had, like, for instance, in this server last time, we had Brenda come on, and she was saying that science doesn't prove anything. It's like, you're pretty much arguing that you can't really know anything, but it's only flat earthers that are arguing for what science is, how to know things, and it's the very opposite of believing things, which is the position most ballers have.
Yeah, the globe's a religious belief.
So
we agree. I mean, but that wasn't really the purpose of yesterday's discussion, which it seems like are you still coming from that angle, or have we just veered off into just general chit chat about this subject?
No, it was you. No, it was. I think you were asking what the benefit of them believing what they do, and it's when they stop doing science, when they just believe things. They don't try to know things, and that's what Flat Earth always usually points out, is that you don't know half that stuff. You're just believing most of it.
Yeah, and that's painful to hear. But at the point that you point out that it's a belief, then that's painful. But prior to that, they wouldn't be under the impression that it was a belief. They'd just know that they know.
Right, and that's the good thing that I've appreciated about this show specifically, is that when they say they know things, they're appealing to a belief. They're not doing science. They don't know. They're not trying to prove anything. And that's why it's very much a religion, from what I understand about most global heliocentric people.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it sounds like you're rationalizing it as you're detailing it to me. Wrapping your own mind around it. Although you know the situation, it's like it's quite difficult to wrap your head around, even when you know it. Some things you just go, I need to verbalize it to say, yeah, that is actually the situation. Yes, that's correct.
Well, the only reason why I mention it is that these guys are lying to themselves. Like, you'll have a lot of people that will argue for the globe. Like, a lot of diehard, like, they're fully in on the ball, but they don't know anything. They're just frustrated at the fact because they're lying to themselves. They're lying to themselves in all lots of different ways because their whole premise is something they can't prove.
You
So
back
these
off your mic
guys,
a
I
little
don't
bit.
know.
You're plenty loud enough, and you're popping in stuff just because you're a bit close to your mic. I'm uber fussy about these things these days.
I'm not sure if this is the one, but you were trying to think of John Caleb Warren
Okay.
on that show with the music, but I don't think it's that one.
Was it Mickelson?
I'm trying to remember the guy who's got an intro that's "This world is not what you think it is." I'm sure it's John something, but I just can't remember what it is.
It's not Mickelson, 1968.
Oh, I think we're at cross purposes here.
John Levi.
He plays a lot on Jaren's, I think. You can hear that song a lot there. Probably links it.
No, I think John Levi. Isn't that the name?
The name of the channel that we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, John Levi.
Maybe I'll have to check.
I think he does the buildings, the ancient buildings.
No, it's the one with the
Yeah,
hoax,
quite a bit.
HOAX. That's always showing up in a different type of background for it. Look, I mean, I see it all the time. I just can't find it.
Is it Thor? John Thor?
Yeah, maybe John Doerr.
Yeah,
Makes
maybe.
sense, right?
Yeah, I might.
Yeah, that's the one.
Is that the one?
Yeah, I just hit it. It says, let's see. I'll click on. Yeah, John Thor, because I see the hoax.
There we go. I knew I'd get there in the end. So why were we talking about him again?
Oh, that's because Redman came and said he liked that song. He started humming it, and you knew it, and I recalled it, but we can't figure out what channel it was.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't because we wanted to detail a video he got out or something.
And we were talking about royalty-free music and all that stuff. So I just subscribed again because I was subscribed to him and I was unsubscribed. That's why I couldn't find them on my subscription list. So I got kicked off somehow.
What do you do about
Nathan,
that?
you got new music.
Say again?
You said you got. I've noticed you got new music for your intro. Is that related to this kind of thing?
Nah, Adam did that. I mean, again, he used a royalty-free library, but he had to pay to get access to it. So I don't know how royalty-free that makes it, but it meant that it wouldn't trigger the algorithm and demonetize my videos, which is great. But yeah, that was made by Adam Meakin. It was made some time ago, actually. It's just gone through, literally in the last day. It's had a new iteration, but I haven't actually implemented it yet. I just haven't had the chance. But he just polished up the longer version and put the little soundbite from Mad Max.
You guys got a big intro. Like, the theme music is always huge.
Huge as in scale or too long?
Huge is in scale. It's It's like a huge, grandiose kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's what I was going for, like a semi, like news. You know, when you get the beginning of the news, it's always got a kind of rhythm that will get your heart pumping a little bit quicker. That's what I was going for.
Right. No, it's good. It's good stuff.
Raise the excitement level, and then welcome to Flat Earth Debate. You get the intro, and then it's like 0 people say hello from Discord. I'm glad I got that blood pumping in the audience. Because, of course, you can't hear it.
Mate. We're just experiencing it all.
Well, I can see it,
Lovely.
but I don't listen to it, so it doesn't cause feedback. I have that line closed, but it's obviously going out to the audience, and I'm just watching the level on the desk, so I can see, and I know visually where it is in the intro. So mentally, I can hear the music playing, even though it's not actually playing. And that mentally gets my heart racing a little bit, just so I've got a bit of enthusiasm for my intro. But I can't hear it. It's just psychoacoustically being heard and played in my head while I watch a level dance up and down.
Well, I'll listen into Discord, right? And then I'll watch the YouTube video, and it's silent on Discord, but when you watch the YouTube introduction, the show itself, it's coming in hot. It's like ready to go into it, like automatically. It's a great way to start the first couple questions.
Yeah, that's why I want to roll straight into the housekeeping when the intro finishes and I've introduced people who are on the panel. I just want to get straight into it because then, you know, it flows a bit better. But anyway, I'm actually going to start the live show now. So enthusiasm level ahoy.
What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Ahoy!
Morning.
Hey, good morning.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, good to have you all. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Come
No.
on, Discord.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
Well,
Nope.
the thing is, I don't think they can distinguish curvature from refraction. I don't think they would know how to even do that.
Well, they can't. Curvature is part of their refraction. 7/6 of the radius value absolutely includes the curvature. The radius value is part of their refraction.
Right.
So when they say refraction, they actually
Well, the thing
mean,
is, yeah.
when they say refraction, they actually mean
Well, what?
terrestrial refraction, which is 7/6 of radius. So yes, they're intrinsically linked.
Yeah. So when we say we don't ever observe curvature, we're saying that and talk to surveyors that go out and do these long distance observations, they couldn't even tell you how they distinguish curvature from refraction. They just say it's not accurate up to 3 miles, and then they have to do another measurement. But when we can see way farther than we should, we're asking where are you guys seeing the curve, And I don't know how they answer that. They don't have an answer.
Well, they're utilising 7/6 of the radius in every example when they utilise this word that they've hijacked, which is refraction. Theirs is a geometric value in a mathematical reification as opposed to an actual value of optical inference that you might observe when you take a picture. Hey, Arwin, hey, father of a silent child. Good to have you both.
Hey, Nathan.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Nathan, don't they pop in here from what I've heard in the past, geodetics, which is already assuming a curve, but they never can prove it. They just assume it.
Oh yeah, when they reference their model in the first instance, if they're ever measuring anything, they'll be referencing a datum. But then from that point forward, they'll use, they won't actually measure anything curved to keep it simple. It's all measured flat.
Exactly. Construction surveying is a lot different than geodetic, like actual long distance surveying. So when they're using curves, they're still trying to measure a horizontal level flat plane. That's what they're calculating for. But their radius for them even finding a curve is just based on the formula. And that formula over long distance, they attribute to the radius value, which is them just begging the question. But they never do long enough distance to even get any curvature, really.
Indeed, but what they're measuring is a tangent plane. So they're assuming their outcome. You already highlighted it. Correct. They're begging the question. Assuming the outcome they're trying to prove.
Yeah, it's the different. Like you just ask them how they distinguish curvature from refraction. They'll get into observations, especially geodetic. That's what they're doing. They're making observation and applying it to a math, a formula that gives a radius that hasn't even been proven yet. We don't observe that. We observe much things way farther.
It's the same thing I said about navigators using the sextant, because what they do is they use a tangent plane because they do a localized measurement when it comes to surveying, right? But they say, oh, but the datum says we live on the curve, but since we don't ever have to measure that far where the curve actually represents itself, we just accept it. But they never can measure, so the black swan proves that we don't live on a sphere. Whereas in navigation, you can't get an angle unless you have two straight lines. So you got to have your plumb line, which is your zenith. That's your 12 o'clock noon right above you if there's a luminary there. And then, of course, the other line, which is the horizon, which is at sea level. And you got to get an angle. Without an angle, without a corner, you don't have a vertex. So there's no way to get a angle measurement if that bottom line is curving. So that's a localized flat Earth that they do the sextant on. But then they say, oh, but we know it's curved.
Well, that's why they don't use theodolites on boats. Like you're not going to be making. They'll typically use a sextant, which is an observation of like the stars in the sky in relation to the area around you. But for actual measuring curvature, I don't know where they're getting this stuff from, other than the formula.
Well, they're not. That's the point, because
Exactly.
the star could be 2,500 miles away from you, but by going to the book, that its zenith position is over there, 2,500 miles away. Then you draw your circle 2,500 miles out from that center of that zenith position, and you're somewhere in that circle. Well, that could only happen on a flat 2,500 miles. It can't be a curved 2,500 miles. You can't get an angle.
Right, so let's explain where they get it from. So they take that zenith, and then they assume that that's pointing to a pre-designated centre of a sphere, based on the datum they reference when they take their zenith measurement. So what is a zenith? Well, it's a line that is drawn from above your head, down through your head, down through the ground. Well, if you assume that that line is actually pointing towards the centre of a sphere, and then from that assumption you draw out a tangent plane, well, the plane bit is the bit that's being measured, flat, and the tangent bit is their presupposition that they've got a tangent to the horizon in the distance, hence tangent plane. The tangent bit is assumed by way of datum, and the plane bit, the flat bit, is what they actually encounter, because the Earth is obviously and observably and measurably flat.
And that's where they'll even tell you when they use theodolites and they do ground-based surveying observation of distances. They'll say at 3 miles it completely falls off because of all these different optical effects at long distances, like refraction. So they'll just say, oh, according to our formula, that's just where we can measure curve where our things just fall off and we can't measure any distance other than that, because it's all optical. It's all refractive in the medium of air and light scattering in every direction. It's hard to actually make these observations accurately.
Well, incorrect. So that's called a bait and switch. So you're describing optical phenomena, but what they actually have as their refraction is a geometric value, not an optical one.
Formula.
So terrestrial refraction is them invoking the R value that they've already assumed. 7/6 of the radius in standard form is their terrestrial quote-unquote refraction. Nothing to do with optics. Right. They have excluded optics from their mathematics. And the way they've done it is giving you targets in their mathematics that don't include perspective. That is to say, they attribute a full height of the item in feet and inches or meters. That's an actual size, when in reality things in the distance get smaller. Well, they don't account for an angular size of the target. Well, that means they remove the optical aspect of what you would see in a picture and then attribute geometric values to it in the form of, in this instance, refraction, 7/6 of the radius.
Right. Yeah.
One,
They never include like the focal point of where you're looking and how light is even getting there. It's refracting. We already understand that. But at certain distances, your eye is just not going to be useful. But until you get to even the focal point, it's all going to converge at a horizontal plane we understand in geometry. It's like an x and y axis of what plane your geometry is. That's how we perceive things when we look at any observation. Now, what they do is they connect a non-Euclidean globe model mathematics to that, which is just a formula. They say, okay, we see this, but it's really a formula at this distance, at this rate, and there's the globe. It's just mathematics. It has nothing to do with what they're seeing.
Yeah, and do you know how they do that?
I was going to say they pull it out of their ass, but I don't know.
No, well, they pull it into side view. So when you describe what you see with your eyes, that'll be optics, and what you'd have in a photo, optics.
Right.
What they do in their maths is they turn it side on. So suddenly you're seeing yourself in the picture. So you see a stick man in their depiction looking at a target on the right-hand side of the page and the stick man on the left-hand side of the page. Effectively, you're seeing the side of your own head. Well, that means that you've removed all aspects of perspective from their mathematics. And again, as I've already detailed, give the target in an actual size, feet and inches or meters, so it doesn't change with distance. Now, actual sizes don't change with distance, but the perception, the optics, the angular size does. But it's removed when you put the mathematics into a side-on view.
Right, and that's the thing that, like, here's the thing. I don't know. Listening, because you listen to the show every now and then. We kind of understand that it's what you call Muppet vision. When they try to get you convinced of this thing, they'll do like a side-on presentation. That side-on presentation is trying to reify like the ball. Like, here's where you would see that. But they get so frustrated when we talk about refraction and long distances because we know they're going to use a formula that presupposes and begs the question of a ball. And that's where it gets like, it's just not reality anymore.
Perfect. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Don't all go at once.
I'm waiting for Discord to pop in today.
No.
Come on, Discord.
There's a claim we have 15 degrees an hour deviation as the Earth rotates as a non-inertial reference frame underneath an inertial reference frame to give us this effect called Coriolis deviation. That is their claim. Now that would involve Earth turning underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour, as I've just explained. That's the claim. But stuff doesn't drift away at 15 degrees an hour anywhere. Doesn't happen. We don't have this effect. The only asserted claims of this effect take place in the air for fractions of a second or a few seconds at the most, so that they can assert Earth's turned underneath something that's left Earth, but in reality we don't observe it. And when you look into the effect, it's detailed incorrectly by all the citations. So when you go to things like the Met Office description, they'll have hurricanes being described as part of Coriolis effect, which they're not unless you're spinning around in them.
Well, okay, so Newton's first law of physics, right? Because they like everybody talks gravity all the time. But Newton's even first law of physics is that you have to be able to distinguish something in motion from something at rest. In the heliocentric model, they don't have anything at rest. Everything is moving all the time and different. So you don't really know anything. You just think that the speed is relative to your position. If only a flat earther can really say something is at rest versus something is in motion. That's only a flat earther could make that claim. When you believe in the heliocentric, whatever model, religion, they're saying everything's moving all the time and it always has been. So you can't really know anything. It's like trash.
Any
So
scientific?
then no 15-degree Earth-based Coriolis if everything's moving as once.
Yeah, because they don't know anything that's moving, because they don't know what's moving versus what's at rest, because they say everything is moving relative to your. It's like nonsense. They're telling you how much they don't know about what they're doing.
So then Neil deGrasse Tyson saying the football was affected by Earth turned underneath. So he doesn't know what he's talking about?
No, Earth just doesn't turn underneath a football, or a bullet, or a hot air balloon, or an aeroplane, or a drone, or anything else that leaves the ground.
Right.
The
I
fact that
agree
they
with
even
that
disagree with each
100%.
other,
So when Neil
right?
deGrasse
fact that they
Tyson says that, he's arguing both sides.
He's arguing the rhetoric as it's stated in the rhetoric. It's claimed Earth has Coriolis effect. That's what Neil deGrasse Tyson states. Now, he stated it by way of him tweeting out an example he claimed to see with his own eyes in the form of a football going through a goal because it was claimed Earth turned underneath to cause a deflection. So had our Earth not been turning underneath that ball, it wouldn't have gone through, right? That's the claim. Well, that claim involves Earth turning underneath the football when it leaves the Earth at 15 degrees an hour, precisely as they claim. So Neil deGrasse Tyson is simply towing the line. We then point out that if Earth turns underneath a football at 15 degrees an hour, then it turns underneath a drone. And you'd notice, because drones stay in the air a lot longer than footballs.
He can't make that claim.
That's it.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, he just doesn't know what he's talking about. Because if the Earth is moving relative to something, then everything's moving relative to each other. He's pretty much saying we can't know really much anything, and it's all moving all the time. Like, they don't have a basis in Newtonian physics to say what's at rest versus what's in motion. They can formula and hypothesize and theoretic all they want, but it's just, I don't know, it's not reality at all.
But that's what's broken about their model. Their model has to have Earth turn underneath things that are not attached to Earth, but in reality, we never see it. So they keep up the rhetoric.
They get radius and they get all these astrophysics is them calculating different speeds. They look at a star and they say, this goes this way, that goes that way. Let's try to make a formula that this them not knowing anything. And they'll even tell you that. Like, what's the Michio Kaku? He's saying you guys don't even realize how much we don't know. It's just we don't know really much of anything about it. They'll tell you.
Sure, but the rhetoric is still set. There's a claim that they've got Coriolis effect, and they don't. That's the bottom line here. Now, they, on the trench level, will attempt to obfuscate around it, make it our claim, tell us we don't understand Coriolis. All of the above. It doesn't change the fact that there is a claim that Earth spinning has Coriolis deflection, and it doesn't. That's the bottom line. Moving on, any scientific evidence of gravity?
Come on, Discord.
What's
One person
gravity?
in
What is
Discord.
gravity?
Oh, there
What's
you go.
that?
Gravity. What is gravity?
Yeah.
What is
Which
gravity?
hypothesis exactly? Where's the hypothesis for
The
gravity?
bending of a concept.
There isn't one. It takes place
Well, hold on.
in a world that isn't real.
They say gravity is things going down, but it's like a non-point because things go up too.
No, they used
go all
to.
different directions.
Let's get that correct. 106 years ago, that claim that gravity was things going down, go boom boom, like bouncy balls poured in a fish tank, was replaced by Einsteinian bending space-time. That is what gravity is now. Bending space-time. Well, what is space-time? Well, it's a world that doesn't exist. And that will be disclaimed by those in the know on the globe side, like Rumpus, who will make it absolutely clear. For space, isn't somewhere you can move around in. It's not somewhere that's real. Now, they can translate the claimed effects in mathematics into the 3D world, and then also claim that they can dilute that down into Newtonian mechanics. Well, no, they don't even sit in the same geometry. They're totally different. It's not the case. Even if it was, diluting it down into a 3 space that also cannot calculate the orbit of Mercury by disclosure of Rumpus yesterday, i.e. it's broken and doesn't work, is nigh on irrelevant, especially when it was replaced 106 years ago. So what they have now as gravity is the bending of space-time. It's alleged to be caused by the uneven distribution of mass, and it takes place in a world that is not real. That would be pseudo 4 space, length, breadth, depth, and time. This imaginary 4-dimensional time invented by Einstein. Not real, pseudo 4 space.
So it's a fairy tale.
Yeah, it's a little story that's explained in the language of mathematics, made up by a man called Einstein, about a world that doesn't exist. It has quite a lot in common with Narnia.
What if I had a good imagination?
Well, you guys got to have a good imagination. Nathan, you and QE talking, I don't know if it was yesterday or a few days before, whenever, I don't know. You guys were talking about Rumpus and his field equations. And actually talking about mass attracting mass in a mathematical sense. He didn't know it. Everybody found out that he didn't know it. But why? I don't know of anybody that can know what he's talking about, Einstein, when he does his field equation in mathematics. It's such. Tesla called it just like fantasy. Tesla, even the guy who was a whatever, it's just all fantasy mathematics. But I don't know to this day anybody that can actually do any of those equations. So it's just nonsense, abstract.
Yeah, it's abstract. The ability to be able to perform an equation doesn't will it into reality.
Well, with math, everything is possible. You got to remember that.
What, like I can
Yeah,
describe anything in
but
language.
not everything
Yeah.
is reality.
In language, I can describe almost anything, real or not real, fantasy or otherwise. Almost anything's almost anything is possible with language. Well, maths is just a language.
It's
Well, I think
equivalent to your
even
Narnia.
the word.
It's equivalent to your Narnia story, because here we have C.S. Lewis writing the Narnia story with language, and here we got Einstein writing about something that's not real with calculations.
Language.
Yeah, mathematical language.
Mhm.
Doesn't make it real.
Isn't that the point, though? Like, isn't the mathematics the description of how, like it's abstract for a reason? It's so otherworldly, like intentionally. It's philosophy. Like Newton described it as philosophy, but the modern understanding of Einstein is mathematical make believe. Absolutely. I mean, they can't connect it to reality other than just applying a mathematical formula or an understanding. It's a religion. It's a doctrine theory.
If they could connect it to reality, all housekeeping questions can be answered by them in an instant.
We wouldn't be here at all. No.
Right.
Well, that was claimed to be another perceived benefit by Unitox Femu from a super chat yesterday. It's like, here's a benefit. If it wasn't for this nonsense, we wouldn't have flat Earth debate. So, hooray!
That actually might be more of a conspiracy than anything else. The globe itself is a conspiracy. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, by definition, it's a conspiracy. A lot of the participants in the conspiracy are unwitting, though. So,
I'll say
So
no.
are you saying it's
I know
a
some
conspiracy
people that tell me
theory that's
about
been
it.
proven with hypothesis?
it's just call it a conspiracy theory, call it a mystic Meg theory, call it a Nostradamus theory, call it the heliocentric theory. It's not scientific. It's a just so story.
Hold on. Can we come back to that real quick? Because, like I said, I still remember about like 200 episodes on Nathan's show. Brenda always coming on saying we can't really know anything. Now, recently, and on the Discord channel here, we've been talking to Brenda, and she says science doesn't prove things. Now, that is a claim. Like, you're saying that you can't know anything, That's it's pseudoscience. And this is, for some reason, a very global ball talking point. I don't know.
It's the old how do you call it when they say nothing. There's no objective truth. Are you 100% sure?
Solipsistic retreats. It's a solipsistic retreat.
It's epistemology.
Well,
yeah.
hold on. Let's call it like it is, because it's something we get accused of being. So, she is a science denier, then.
She'll tell you she is. Yeah. That's the weird part about it. She'll tell you it already.
So, a heliocentrist or a heliocentric apologist outright and overtly admits to being a science denier. Just ask her why we don't have scurvy anymore, and then ask her how they validated the cause of that effect. And if she says,
well,
"Oh,
that's
right,"
the point.
pardon?
She's telling you she can't know anything, but she wants to use science when it works. But like, if we like, even using science would beg the question that we can know things. We can know things. That's why we use science. Science proves things. You're saying we can't really know anything. If you can't know anything, why are you debating? Why do you even have an opinion at all?
They talk out
Like,
both
it's like,
sides
get
of their
outta here.
mouths. So what they've done is they've utilised part of our understanding that we were trained in a very overt way when we were very young, that science is empirical and it proves things. So with that understanding, moving forward, they utilise that as a magic trick and imply that they've proven things when they say the word science. As an example, you have people like Rumpus who will come and tell us all about how wonderful the Cavendish experiment is, and try and justify how it has independent and dependent variables. In other words, he's lending credence to this being proof for his claim of gravity, even though it isn't in any way, shape or form valid in scientific context. But he'll argue about it. Why? Well, because he's claiming that's a scientific proof of his claim. Now, the same man will simultaneously come here and tell us, quote, science doesn't prove things. But yet he's arguing about how he's got an independent and dependent variable and a viable experiment in the form of Cavendish, when he'll simultaneously tell you science doesn't prove things. Yeah, they haven't got science. Science does prove things. But when we show that what they have and claim is science doesn't prove anything and isn't science, they'll throw science under the bus, because they didn't have it to begin with. They had pseudoscience. So to correct what they're actually saying, they're saying pseudoscience doesn't prove anything, and that's what I was offering. My pseudoscience Cavendish experiment didn't prove anything. That's the accurate summation of their doublespeak, speaking out of both sides of their mouth, claiming science doesn't prove things, while simultaneously claiming they've got experiments to prove gravity.
Well, according to Gem Panda, from what I understand, he says it may change 20 years from now. And then what does that mean with scurvy if they find out something else happens?
I can't divine the
What a
thoughts
neat
and deranged natterings of an idiot. I can't do that, I'm afraid. So I've got no reply to that.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Gem
He
Panda
says 20
doesn't
years
act-
from now they
yeah,
could come up with something else. But that's not science.
That's an appeal to the future fallacy.
That's correct. Well spotted.
Actually, yeah. True.
I'm glad you're here, father of a stolen child. Let's move on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
We could talk about meteorology. That's a hilarious one. It's like Coriolis weather misconception.
Feel free.
Like when they say hurricanes in like maybe the southern, what is it? It's not hemisphere. Southern of the equator, we'll say. Like they're just gonna say things just do this in this direction. I don't know. And they believe it because like they can come up with some sort of idea mathematically that I don't know. We can think of it like this. But like it's not really accounting for anything because they're just saying that there's wind speeds that move directions. Like directions are just wind speed jet streams. It doesn't say anything about the shape of the earth. You guys are idiots. You got like half the time I don't think they even really want to debate these things, you know?
Well, they do.
And that's why it's a good question.
Well, no, they do. You've just left out part of what they would assert during their explanation for what you've described in terms of wind directions. They would insert the word hemisphere.
Well, hold on. Listen. Here's the thing. I know that they can't tell curvature from refraction, and I also know I know that they can't tell Coriolis from jet streams or just wind jet. Like they don't know how to even account for these variables at all. Now you can account with it with mathematics, and you can get a rough understanding of holy shit. Maybe there's a whole bunch of things happening, but they can't differentiate those things. They'll just say wind is weird and it kind of goes over here, and here's our margin of error. It's just math, dude. It's always ever been math with these guys.
Sure, but you're missing what I'm saying. To make that into a globe claim, all they need to do is beg the question at the start of the statement. So usually these examples turn into an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. So in this case, we've got an example that can hold true because you've got wind directions, right? So that would normally take your Q statement. So we're going to have Q as something that can actually be observed or demonstrated to others or qualified in some way mathematically, is what you're saying. But if my P statement is if Earth's a sphere, then Q, I'll see wind, blah, 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 wind directions. Doesn't matter what I say. But then I'll just affirm the consequent, blah, 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 wind directions, therefore Earth's a sphere. But you've got to beg the question. Now, normally that won't come as overtly and formulated in the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy so concisely. It'll normally come with a lot of hyperbole. But it will definitely come with a word like hemispheres to beg the question without most people noticing that they're just going to assume when they travel south and make an observation of a wind direction that they're doing it on a sphere. But most people won't pick up on that begging the question part of their argument.
Consider this, Nathan. There's so many different ways that you can reimagine what's happening. There's so many different ways that you could understand these things. The fact that we can acknowledge all the different variables is part of the skepticism of flat earthers saying, hey, guess what, Mr. Bali, I don't think you know even what you're talking about, and you can't even demonstrate where the hell you're coming from. These guys, if you ask them, as you guys have asked Rumpus many different times, they don't know why they believe it. They're saying it's spooky. I don't know. I was taught it. That's brainwashing. That's an absolute proof that they don't know what they're talking about. All you have to do is ask them, and that's why we appreciate asking simple questions, because they'll tell you everything that they've been told. But they can't think out of the box. They don't have any critical thought at all. They're just trash.
Can I comment on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it all depends who you're talking to. Like yesterday, I went to visit a friend, and he believes in flat Earth, but his wife, doesn't, or has heard us talk about it, but hasn't at all volunteered to be a part of any conversation. So we had some time, and we were talking about other things, and I made a comparison to flat Earth, and I went to the top three that we use here. Gas pressure without a container, the black swan, and Earth-based Coriolis. So as I went through each argument in very simple terms, her head was nodding. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that all makes sense. And I said, so you see, Earth can't be a sphere because none of these things work. And these are very simple things anyone could ask because all it is a model. Now, if I had a ball trencher, well, the ball trencher would go into other parts and they'd say, well, the atmosphere is spinning with the Earth and, that's refraction and all this stuff. And then, of course, because of the show, I'm able to answer those things. That's standard refraction. That's 7/6R. So where'd you get your R from if you can't see it in the first place? But that never happens with the normie. The normie hears the top three and nods their head. I've never had a normie not nod their head.
Fair enough. I've had plenty of normies not nod their head, but there we go.
Well, I don't know. I haven't because I just asked them, well, how could it work? And they say, you know what? It makes total sense to me, but this is what they teach us. So what are we to believe? And so they're kind of stuck. Do they trust me? Do they trust the argument? Or do they trust what they grew up with? But they're nodding their head, as you say. Doesn't make sense to have gas pressure next to a vacuum and have that gas pressure stay rather than fill the available vacuum. They say no, they would just go into it. So they're nodding their head with the arguments. They're agreeing with us, but stuck in the fantasy of the heliocentric model.
Okay, I'll make a slight correction.
Well, someone out there knows, right? That's what most people believe. It doesn't make sense to them, but someone knows.
Well, if someone has a formula, yeah, you could probably think of anything mathematically.
No,
You could
yeah,
experience
John.
something crazy
That's
and
appeal to
come up with
authority
it.
or appeal to intelligence or academia.
Yep.
That's a good point you bring up there, John, because when it goes there, you say, so if I go to this someone and say, I have gas pressure next to a vacuum, he'd say how it would stay here and not fill the space when we know that's 100% impossible. And then that's just total silence.
Well, silence is their best bet anyway, but they're not going to benefit from coming here and arguing with us. It's only going to cause them pain. So they need to stay away if they want to keep their faith.
Moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence for the distance to the sun. They can't even get our Earth's presupposed, begging the question, radius working on their model. How are they going to know the distance to the sun?
Well, hold on 1 sec. The funny thing is, if you talk to a glober who says they can say for sure 93 million miles, you ask them how they got that measurement. What math were you using to even come into that understanding? That's going to tell you about parallax of 5 different what they call minor planets. Now, one of these minor planets is called Clio. It's what they call a moon in orbit in our farthest solar system. Now, hear me out. They haven't made an observation of this in over 200 years. Now, if you ask them how they know these things and where they're coming up with the mathematics, you'll quickly realize that holy shit, this is just an abstract belief of what they think they're begging the question reified model actually is. But they don't know shit, especially the modern ones, because they're not doing any observations of this shit. They're just begging the question as much as they can. They're liars. They haven't done the math. The original math that got them their 93 million miles of anything related to the sun, trash. They cannot prove that, and they don't even know how.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Spherical Earth?
Presupposed spherical Earth, yeah.
Well, you added that part, right?
They had that part. That was my point earlier. Like with hemisphere.
Well, when they say, well, I don't know. Whoever says spherical Earth, I don't ever see that. I never experienced that. I don't even know anybody that knows that it's spherical. That's a belief, really. It's common, yeah. You'll hear about that, but these guys don't do science. So, like, okay, so what do you mean, core? What do you mean? Like every sort of these questions, I feel like you're gonna ask are gonna just beg the question mathematics.
Yeah, they're going to assume R. Any evidence of the R value?
Okay. Any evidence? You just proved it's math. Even asking that question proves it's just math.
Define evidence.
Evidence is proof.
Things you heard about.
No, evidence means proof.
No, nothing at all.
Evidence isn't proof. Science is proof. But you can find evidence for anything. You could find evidence of a unicorn if you really wanted to. Just Google search unicorn
This is the point of the
evidence.
housekeeping questions to show how stupid they are.
No, let's get the context right.
Isn't
If you search for evidence of unicorn, what you will find is evidence of the idea of a unicorn being documented, but you won't find evidence of a physical unicorn. There is no such thing. There is no evidence to be found, but you will find documented evidence of people describing unicorns, a fable creature that does not exist. So there's evidence of that, but not evidence of a physical unicorn, because there isn't one.
No, hold on. What I'm going to say is scientifically theoretical. So we can hypothesize with mathematics that unicorns exist.
That's correct.
I can give you the shape, the formula, the unicorn, the horn itself. I can give you the mathematics for that.
That's
So
correct.
theoretically, I could provide evidence of whatever I
That's
wanted
correct.
to.
Yes, that's correct.
So
In all
there's
instances,
evidence for
yes.
anything,
Yeah.
but a lot of empirical factuality to need the science. Mathematics is not science. That's
Well,
what they
it's not
depend on.
physical.
They depend on mathematic formulas.
Well,
It's not anything to do with reality.
Yes, that's physics. So when you're saying science, what you mean is physics. That's the physical. So when you're talking about the physical and you're talking about the abstract and you're describing how you can calculate the density of the unicorn's horn or the length of time the digestion process of the unicorn would take, mathematically, that doesn't make them real. Now, what the process that you're describing that's been utilized as a magic trick is a process of reification. Now, if you take unicorn as a quasi example of the argument we're actually making here, which is that we live on a sphere flying through a vacuum and spinning, well, then the unicorn has only to be presented on a TV screen with some presenter stroking it for you to make the reification part of your actualization of your reality, even though you've never seen one. Likewise, you can show people on high wire in a sky vacuum, and it's no different to someone strapping on a fake horn to a horse and calling it a unicorn, but telling you that they're real and then going into great detail about the maths of the digestion system and the mass of the unicorn horn. And, you know, therefore you've got every piece of the delusion created. A nice little hallucinatory form in the TV screen's depiction of this unicorn, and the delusion that's presented when you have the mathematics being reified by you because you don't see any reason why not to. It's not reification. I've seen it on TV.
Hold on. I get it. Math doesn't prove anything. Math is just like, here's how you can think about something. You know what? You could believe in Narnia, as we always like the meme about. You can believe in whatever you want, actually. It doesn't really matter. Mathematical formulas will probably account for that. Just on a degree of getting some arbitrary. Hold on. Here's the thing. In mathematics, if you've ever gone through high school mathematics, they'll tell you about arbitrary and imaginary numbers. This is the crux, and this is where the heliocentric globe model rests all their pioneering science from mathematically. Astrophysics, meteorology, all on the understanding of, holy shit, I don't know, maybe. It's not actuality. They don't do these things. They're making up as they go. They're lying to you, absolutely.
Yeah, maths describes, it's a language. Now, it can describe things that do, and it can describe things that do not exist equally well. But it's just descriptions, abstract, not real. Now, physics, on the other hand, doesn't just describe, it explains. But it's explaining in the physical realm, by way of physical manipulation of physical assumed causes of a physical effect that you're trying to study. That's physics. Shocking horror. Yeah, that's physics. Maths, on the other hand, isn't physics. It's not science, it's abstract. It's just describing things, it's just language. Let's move on.
So, okay,
go
yeah,
on.
so hold on. Let's just nail the coffin into this. Observations don't prove mathematics. The mathematics that they give us, right, with a radius, debunked. There's certain measures of curvature that formulaically we don't mathematically conclude. They're pulling it out of their ass, and they're employing you to believe that you don't know how to do it. They're expecting that you don't know how to do the math. That's what they're saying, because they don't find curvature, right? This is why I'm saying, like, you go on, for instance, here's an example. You go on Jose's, JG. This guy has a whole panel of
Have you had a
gloopers
few
dedicated
drinks?
to misunderstanding flat Earth.
Let him ramble. It's all good. Don't move, Neil. Feel free, carry on, Tiglaser.
Well, what I was saying is that if you go on to Glober channels, people go on to Jim Pandas. I don't. If you go on an honest channel like Jose JG, these guys are packed full with Globers that are purposely there to misunderstand everything Flat Earth is saying. Now, these guys come up with the darnest, most mathematical abstractions you could ever. All you have to do is talk with them how they know anything. They'll tell you damn well science doesn't prove anything. I don't know. They're confused. They're actually retarded in some sense. It's not an insult, but they're confused. They're very dense. They don't know shit. All you have to do if you're a flat earther is just ask them about how much they don't fucking even know what's happening.
Try not to
Try
swear.
it yourself.
Just try not to swear. Few S words I
Well,
can
isn't
cope
the
with.
hold on? Okay, so let's recorrect that. The fun part of being a
Mind your
flat
tongue.
earther. Hold on 1 sec. The fun part of being a flat earther is that in 2021, you have to understand how much of this shit they've pulled out of their ass. That's the thing. You can censor that as much as they want, but flat Earth has been here for a while, and it's based on logical skepticism, the critical analysis of what they're claiming versus actual reality. They don't do science. They'll tell you that science is just, it doesn't prove anything. They're liars. They're confused. They're arguing for the fact that they know that they can't know anything. These guys are wild. They should be banned. They should be muted every step of the way.
No, you need to be a bit more tolerant. That's the
What are you,
world at
Democrat?
large when presented with this conundrum.
I don't think you should tolerate scholars. Glovers, I don't think you should hear
Good
these
one,
guys.
Neil.
Flat Earth can actually go on without these people. These guys are liars.
Indeed.
They're confused,
Yeah, indeed.
and they'll tell you about it.
Well, it
Yeah,
will.
they'll tell you all about it.
Hold on. You're reifying flat Earth. When you say flat Earth can go on without it, no, you can, personally, individually. Just get on with it, and you don't need to concern yourselves with these people. Right, now, I know that
You're
for some
saying
reason...
that I should consider the fact that people say it's a ball, and I'm telling you, no, actually, it doesn't require... If I experience anything empirically, I can make an observation and connect it with the geometry. I can say it's flat. Why can I say it's flat? Because I have a geometric understanding of what horizontal is. 90 degrees from the vertical. Mathematically, these guys are just pulling so much out of their ass that I don't care, Nathan, I don't care how much they talk to you about it. They're liars. If you were a Glober in 2021, you're an absolute liar, and you should know flat Earth enough to know that you're just making it up as you go.
Okay, I agree.
I don't like to
I agree.
hear
Hold
these
on.
guys.
Just wait.
They're
Right.
liars.
Okay, I agree. They're liars. Now, what would you do in any other circumstance if you found out that somebody you interacted with was a liar? What would you do?
I would express the absolute opinion that, holy shit, listen, there's a difference between believing and knowing. And if you experience when you know things, aka you just exist at all, you've probably walked out your front door and seen how flat the Earth actually presents itself to be.
So what
Now,
you're
the
saying
problem
is...
with Gloopers
Hold on.
is that
So, hold on.
they say,
I don't want to know what the problem with it is. So you're saying that you would appeal to them to change their position. That's what you're saying. You do. That's how you deal with liars generally, is it?
No, I like to listen, I don't think anybody's lying, especially if they're telling you about what they believe. Now, when they tell you what they
Oh,
believe,
come on.
that's a
Don't
very
do this. I've got to stop
different...
you, right? You've just spent 10 minutes babbling on about how they're liars. Now you're going to hold the opposite position. No, that's going to get frustrating for me real fast. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm appealing to you
let's
basis.
simplify.
Hold on, mate. Don't interrupt. I'm appealing to you on the basis that you've expressed it over and over again that you feel that they're liars. And I'm trying to lead you somewhere by saying, how would one ordinarily deal with a liar? And where I was going with that was you'd distance yourself from that person. You wouldn't interact with that person. But clearly you are, and you're expressing your frustrations based on your choice to interact with them. Now, your choice and your... mate, Frank, hello? Your choice and your decision to interact with these people is your own. Equally, their choice to hold their belief that you are desperate to point out to them is equally their own. But you don't have to concern yourself with that.
That's listen, Nathan. You have to accept a certain amount of criticism of your show itself. When Flat Earth says, hey, Nathan, I think you're giving a little too much privilege of thought. You cannot think these things if you know enough about what people have observed.
Get you,
and
little Nazi.
He is a Democrat.
Hold on. If you're attributing reality to mathematics, like a 3959 value of belief, you're just abstract completely. I can't even help. You don't even know that. You're just believing it. It's trash, man. I don't know
Why
how
do you want
to
to
say
shut
it.
down?
It's
Yeah, we agree.
garbage.
Why do you
I
want
know what the name of
agree.
this show is going to be.
Hold on, we agree. Yes, that's correct. So now, next step. Do you appeal to them indefinitely to try and change their belief? That seems unreasonable. It's their belief. They're entitled to it. But you
That's
have the
right.
choice. You know, and you almost said, "There's nothing I can do for you," right? But you didn't quite say it, right? Yeah, there's nothing you can do for him. So get on with your day. Enjoy the well, it's drizzly here, but you know what I mean.
No, I mean, yeah. No, that's the thing. It's like, here's the thing. I agree with you, Nathan. Absolutely. Here's the funny part of what it means to be a flat earther right now in 2021. We can acknowledge that people can believe whatever they want. Like, you can find evidence of pretty much anything. What matters is what convinces you. If I talk to you about flat Earth and I say, listen, there's no measurements of curvature. Here's a whole list of people that are flat earthers that go out and look for it. Nobody's found it. This isn't me pulling shit out of my ass. This is me a testament of the whole movement itself. We've done this.
What makes you
figured
the
it out.
spokesman for flat earthers in 2021?
I'm defending the observations that flat earthers
No,
have
you're
proven
defending
that
yours
mathematics.
personal, but not everyone's. Not every flat earther is going to agree the way you tie in your words.
Okay, to be fair, I let the baseless generalization fly just to hear the rest of it, but I will shout out James Richard just quickly. I think what Nathan is saying is if you hang out with a bunch of liars, you're going to be lied to. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying, James Richard. Thank you very much for the super chat. And yes.
No, that's going to be the rest of your life on this earth for sure, because people lie all the time. So what I'm saying is this show has always taken a position, and we're always debating the ballers. We're not caving into them. We're giving them a chance to prove their fantasy. They can't prove their fantasy. And then our 9 questions or 10 questions, whatever.
That's on it. Can I say one thing?
I was talking. So when you say flat earthers in 2021, please don't include me, because you don't know what my 2021 flat earth position is.
Exactly.
Well, so far, listen.
And stop interrupting.
Can I say some flat? Okay, hold on. I don't think I'm going to say anything you would disagree with. Right now,
I already have.
You described. Okay. We're dealing with people that
Hang on, buddy. Hang on,
science.
buddy. If you
don't
just,
want
look, everyone stop. Everyone stop. Right. We don't need to run past each other. I think what 10th Man's looking for is just an acknowledgement that you're just expressing your opinion, and then you can feel free to continue rather than just generalizing him in with what you're saying. That's all he's asking for. If you can just say, okay, fine, we can move on.
Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with him. No,
fine.
At all.
Fine. I overlooked your baseless generalization and didn't take it to heart and apply it to me. Others have, and I can't let that lie until you acknowledge it. Now you have. Feel free to ramble on.
Cool. Oh, I'm not trying to ramble. I'm just trying. Listen. If we can know things, why can't we just know things? Why do we need to confuse ourselves? Like the people that believe in the globe will tell you science has improved things. That's imaginary. They're saying we can't know anything. Why are they even talking to us then? They should get the fuck out. If you don't want to debate what we can know, don't tell me all about how we can't know.
Try not to swear. Well, it depends on the circumstance. If they come here, specifically here, like right now, then they're here to share their pain and convince me of their belief. Right? Right. But you're kind of telling me you want to do the same thing while we're saying, well, you can just walk away from these people. You don't necessarily have to involve yourself with them. Now, I've set up a show where they come to me. So the scenario is that's what I turn into entertainment and education for a profit.
I see.
But they come to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
To convince me of their faith. You know, and that will hopefully alleviate themselves of some of the pain that they feel when they see that it's been challenged and there isn't any rebuttal to it. They might feel that they have one and they want to present it to me.
Let me ask you this. Don't you sense the fact that there's a little bit of peacefulness with Flat Earth when we realize that, listen, ask them how they came up with these measurements. Surely they measured observations at long distances. No. Half the people, unfortunately, Nathan Oakley, they're lying to you. They haven't done shit. We know this because we've talked to them longer than the 5 minutes that you did on your show. Right? So
you're saying the obvious. They come to the show. I don't even know where you're going with this. What are you trying to say?
I say they're liars, but when we get to a conclusion about that, you don't want to hear it.
But your whole show is about exposing the lies, and when they come, we expose it. And I don't know It sounds like he wants to shut 90% of the world that believe in the globe and get rid of them. This doesn't make any sense. We have to help them by exposing the lies. So we got to hear the lies.
That's why I asked if he
You
was
don't
a
have to help
Democrat.
people. Well, listen, these guys have bought into something. This is
Fine.
the difference between believing and knowing. I don't respect
Fine.
flat earthers that believe shit. I will say, if you're a flat earther, you know shit. You know why you know it? Because you've experienced it. That's based on empirical fact.
Okay.
I could never tell you differently. But there's
Okay,
so
that's
many
fine.
different people that believe in the globe that just use math.
Okay, we've heard that 2 or 3 times. So it sounds like you've run out of steam in terms of what you wanted to put across, and you have.
Well, there's
And
not
nobody's
a
disagreeing with you.
response.
Nobody's disagreeing with you. I hoped to have progressed it on to how this can benefit you as an individual, and it sounds like you're halfway there anyway. No
Yeah,
words.
well, I don't know. It's a complicated question of talking about physics. Physics is when you learn more about physics, you realize it's not just downward forces; it's upward forces as well. The gases and solids and liquids and plasma.
God
all of
forbid
this
we've
shit.
never talked about that on this show while we debate ballers. I mean, this is such an obvious thing you're saying. I still don't know why you're on this train.
Because it has so much more value than talking with Gloopers. I don't know. The fact
No,
that
and I
they
appreciate
don't
it. Look, I appreciate that. And at points,
saying.
for whatever reason, people have got a bit agitated with you, and you've got a bit defensive. So don't worry about it. For whatever reason, some people's backs have been rubbed up the wrong way by you, in a small, minor way that I don't want it to descend into rumpusing. And you're a little bit interruptative. It's that word. You interrupt a little bit, which is fine. We get it a lot. But by the same token, 10th man, don't necessarily take it that he's like, I don't know, not on our side because he's being a little bit critical of the show or how we behave. He's dealing with his own cognitive reasoning, right? And he's expressing it verbally in a long stream, occasionally interrupting people while they're in their stream of thought. But it's all good. I'm happy. It's all good.
I just think there's a problem that show up. Maybe.
Hold on one sec. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I don't know if I could classify most people that believe in a globe as a liar. If it's anything, it's self-deception. I don't know. It's just part of faith. I don't think you can help them though, because they're going to believe what they want to believe.
That's correct, John. My cousin's a school teacher, and she is not a liar. This is just something she believes, and she trusts in no matter what I bring her.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
No.
Definitely not.
And yet there's a belief in people who come here to the trench level and assert that the sky is a vacuum. Who would have thought it?
Need that demonstration first.
Demonstration of what? You can't have gas pressure without a container.
I know. They can't demonstrate it. That's what I would like to see.
Hey, Redman, the opposite is true. They can't even show a vacuum without a container.
Whoa.
Can I give you, listen, hold on. Can I give you guys a little bit of insight? Listen, we debate flat earth all the time. Jose JG, one of his local favorites is a person named Blue Marble Science, and Blue Marble Science put the video out. The video that he pointed out was a response to how much flat earth laughed at him. When we said, listen, dude, your pipe still says pressure, gas pressure. He said that, okay, yeah, you're going to have gas pressure with the container in his new video, but you're also going to have a force from above. Dude, the guy is as lost as he's ever been. The problem is he doesn't debate flat earth at all. He'll never talk with a flat earther. The guy is confused. Yeah, that's the problem with him all in of itself. He doesn't debate this shit.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in live. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Primary streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
I was, it was a falsified model that I believed in. So you have a special insight that I really enjoy hearing. But you don't come out here and say some of the things that over the last 40 minutes, like, I mean, there were more things being pulled out of someone's rear end. I didn't know there was that much space back there. I mean, it was ridiculous. The whole point is these people have a right to believe in whatever they want to believe in, and they're welcome to come to the show to debate it. And then we'll see where the logic and truth, which side it upholds. But to say they have no right to speak, no right to believe in the globe, I mean, it's like nonsense. We're not going to convert everybody. That's not even the point of the show. The point of the show is to debate the subject and let people come to their own conclusion.
Correct. We cannot silence
Absolutely.
people. We are not Democrats.
When I believed that there was an R value, I could justify anything with that because I thought I could measure the Earth to be a sphere. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, that was your final. That was the big one, right?
Well, yeah, everything is interdependent on R. Once R goes away, so does the delusion.
That's right.
Yeah, it really brought a smile to my face when you told me that it annoyed you when I used to say in R you trust prior to the Black Swan.
Yeah, because I thought I could measure it. I thought, that there was a dip angle, that I was standing on the hypotenuse of a triangle. The horizon was the other leg of that triangle, and there was a set distance, and I could, formulate a radius from that. Yeah, that's out the window.
Black Swan.
You
Yeah, it's
hear
out the
that,
window.
Globers? If you ain't got an R value, you ain't got a sphere.
No R value. I had Jazz telling me Black Swan is because of refraction. Like, you need an R for that, buddy.
Well, you can't refract the horizon, though, and keep a geometric model. That doesn't make sense.
That's correct. That's where it fails. That's where it falls apart. Therein lies the irony of me saying to QE, let's just use this other image. It's got less refraction in it. And him sniggering and saying, I want them to say refraction. He knew that them declaring refraction was the end of their game.
I think realizing that was really what did it. To hear somebody say refraction. What? I mean, the argument itself stunned me, but I just thought that was the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Well, the statement that sums it up is, if the horizon is refracted, it is not geometric. Further to that, we only have one horizon. And the horizon in the geometric sphere Earth model is geometric.
It's chocolate there. We were having fun with Brenda. I was a little drunk last night. I have memories of having fun with Brenda on the Black Swan, exactly trying to define horizons. It was on 24/7 late last night, Nathan.
So if anybody out there wants to make a little meme for me, it would be Adam Meakin and Brenda having fun on the Black Swan. If someone can scribble that together, that'd be wonderful.
Instead of riding a big shoe.
You'd get a lot of flap. You get a lot of flap from me if that was true.
I'll close my eyes now.
I forget to add a little drunk.
A little drunk. It would need it, wouldn't it? Yeah, but the same thing. The point being was we ended up going round in circles. So she keeps trying to reify it in one sentence as a geometric then, but then to dismiss it when any observation. And they're just nailed. They're just done. Because we got refraction covered as well. And we were trying to come up with what two things are going to determine the rate of refraction on your ball, of which he finally admitted this fractional value and then a constant, which we got to define as R.
Oh, R, a constant, you say?
So then I asked, well, where did we get this constant from?
Hold on, how constant is it if it's moving?
Yeah, so quite a funny one last night, I think. And then
did I say what's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Hey, Chocolate.
Hey, Chocolate.
You should have a better memory of it, Chocolate, because I've had to admit I was slightly inebriated. It was like really late. But weren't we going round in circles with Brenda on a Black Swan last night? See, I've now brought Chocolate on the Swan as well.
Oh, yeah. All about the geometric horizon that we have, that we don't see, that we could never see because we have an atmosphere, but yeah, we can measure to it. Yeah, that's adorable.
So let me get it straight. We can't see it, it can never be seen, but it's also simultaneously a constant used in refraction.
Yeah.
It's a laughable model now, and that's what John was detailing, right? That was his break from the globe, realizing that you can't determine a geometric or physical sphere edge for a horizon as a constant if it's being justified as why it's moved. You know, it suddenly makes no sense.
Yeah, that's the killer, isn't it? Like, they think they're saving something by saying refraction, but they're just stomping on it more.
That's what QE had realized with his modus tones argument, which was so amusing to him, because that's what he wanted them to say. No, we don't see a geometric sphere edge for a horizon. And like Brenda's saying, no, we can't see it. It can't be measured. No, we wouldn't expect to see it. It's atmosphere in the way, blah, 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 blah. But we've measured it. It gives us the R value so we can move it and say we can't see it. Because we can see it, we can measure it, so that we can't see it. Because we can't measure it. Because we can see it, we can measure it.
Maybe their hero, Al Baruni, had a day where there was no Atmos and he actually measured it. Maybe that's where they're going to go next. But then he wouldn't be here to talk about it.
Well, no, it wouldn't matter. The only way that the refraction worked was with looming things with respect to the horizon. It has to remain constant for it to be a geometric model.
Yeah,
I've got saying a no atmo day doesn't help them at all.
Correct. And I've a quote of Rumpus saying exactly that. You know, it's refracted because of its position with respect to the horizon. End quote, the Rumpus. Back in the day when we were debating about the Isle of Man. And that's absolutely correct. They've got to use a constant. Well, what is the constant? Well, it's the hump. It's the sphere edge. It's the bit that gets in the way. It's the bit that's blocking the bottoms of boats and buildings according to their rhetoric. Well, that's a physical limitation caused by their claim of geometry. To get in the way of stuff with its physicality? What's that you say? We wouldn't expect to see a geometric horizon. It's refracted. It can move with the weather. It's in a different position today because we wouldn't expect to see it. Well, no, you've claimed it blocked boats and buildings. You've got maths to show us how much it blocked them by. It can't be refracted because then it's not a constant for your refraction value that you apply when you've got a bit of wiggle room to move around how much or how less there should be of boats and buildings blocked by your physical geometric sphere edge horizon that you're now saying we don't see, wouldn't expect to see, etc., etc.
That's what I told her. I was like, wait a minute. You just said that we could never see the geometric horizon because we have an atmosphere, but yet we have measurements to this thing. How the hell is it? How the hell do you measure to something that you can't see, declared by you, and then you tell us, well, first of all, how can you even call it a horizon if you can't see it?
You can't. We only have one horizon, and the horizon in their model is geometric. The horizon in reality is not actual. It's an apparent location where the sky, redundant, appears to meet the ground. Well, it's not an actual location. It's not geometric. It's not a physical sphere edge. It's not a hill getting in the way of things. It's not actual. When you point that out, they tell you how not actual it is. Non-geometric, they say. Can't be seen. Wouldn't expect to see geometry, they all cry. All right, what's this in your maths marked with an X and labelled horizon? Oh, it's your geometric sphere edge that you're telling us we can't see. And so it goes on. It leaves it in a paradox.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
Exactly. Globe is impossible. Not just we've debunked it, it's become impossible, untenable as a model. You can't reify it anymore. When you realise that you haven't got a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, like John, you go, well, that's the end then. We're not on a sphere then. No going back.
Game over, man. Game over.
I do respect their tenacity in continuing to try to argue. I guess St. Jude is within me somewhere. Just the lost causes, you know. Like I still feel for them.
Yeah, now and again they'll still come on the debate, presumably because they're not in the know. They've either had the black swan argument slip them by, they've intentionally stuck their fingers in the ears and gone la la la. They've believed that it's already debunked because that's what they've read in a chat stream. And then they'll come here with a vague knowledge of what it is and have their ass handed to them. It happens reasonably frequently.
Who's St. Jude?
Isn't he the patron and saint of lost causes?
Oh, that's Catholicism then, right?
Yeah.
Get out. What are you doing? Get out.
I don't know. I'm a saint. I'm a saint.
There you go, Neil. You are a saint.
I have a prediction for QE and the Globers understanding the black swan. I have a prediction for it.
Oh, right. A bit late in the game. It's already over 13 months, right? Or nearly 13 months.
I'll go ahead and say that a Glober will never understand it because the minute they do, they're not Globers anymore.
That's a very, very, very good way to put it. That's correct. What stops them from understanding the black swan? Well, by definition, an understanding of the black swan leaves you without the ability to believe in a sphere anymore.
That's why it's number one.
So I'll make a further statement. Ballers, that would be heliocentric believers, cannot understand the black swan argument. Because, as you rightly point out, upon understanding of the black swan argument, you can't be a Glober anymore. So by definition, Globers can't understand it. You can't be a Glober and understand the black swan argument, because by definition, you can't be a Glober anymore.
Right.
Well said. Well said, both of you.
Continue on that track, or all you're left doing is sounding like a bumbling idiot, double speaking and telling us how we can measure to a geometric horizon that we can't see.
Or worse still, telling us that no one claims you can see it, or you wouldn't expect to see geometry. No one's claiming the horizon is Earth curve, and so the quotes go on.
Well, then how did they mark the X?
They just stick it side on in a mathematical reification that we don't live on.
Oh, Muppet vision.
Yeah. Otherwise
Absent
known as orthographic view.
Absent of perspective, right?
Yeah, targets will be ascribed their actual size so it doesn't change with distance.
Oh, perfect. Perfect time to dovetail. So last night with my friend's wife, I did your one brick at a distance, and then I pointed in their backyard to their fence. And I said, if I put the 8-inch brick there, would you still see it? They all nodded their head. And I did it all the way you do it until I go, at some point, you're not going to see it, right? And they said, correct. And I go, now what if I stack 1,000,000 bricks on top of it? Would you be able to see it? They say, of course. And I go, so, but you're still going to see the bottom one because it's too far away, and due to perspective and the vanishing point and the way our eyes work and angular resolution limit. And I went through all that. And they said, wow, that's pretty good. So again, you got famous via me to my friends.
That's copyrighted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll send you a super chat.
I'll put the invoice in the post.
Okay, thank you.
No, there's no money being made from the education process here. And I just want to tell that out because it was a criticism that had been used to contrast a criticism of a Glober that was making money from this subject. But nevertheless, no invoice will be sent.
By far, my favorite analogy is the brick.
You like the brick analogy?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just another one in the wall.
I love it because that was just on that song. I love it because I remember the first time Nathan went over it, I could see it clear as day. And I was like, oh,
Well, you
yes,
say that.
that's correct.
The first time you heard it was about the third or fourth evolution of that argument. So if you actually go back through my channel, you'll see that I've made this, not the same argument, but very similar arguments with varying explanations for what I'm trying to get across. So it's actually, like I say, it's maybe the fourth evolution of the same thing I've been trying to say. And by the time it got to the point where I'm like, you put a brick on the horizon at a mile, can you see it? And they go, yeah. Well, what about 5 miles? Can you still see it? Yeah, I can. What about, okay, fine. What about 20 miles? Well, no, I can't see the brick anymore. It's too small. Okay, now build a skyscraper on top of the brick that's too small. Can you see the skyscraper? Well, yeah, I can. But you still can't see the brick at the bottom. It's too small. Right, so you've got an angular size reduction at distance that's manifested in bottom-up obstruction. Looks like the bottom brick's disappeared. You can see the stuff on top, but it's only because it's too small to see. Well, that argument has been refined, so it wasn't anywhere near as concise as that when it first came out, just so you know.
I'd like to ask a question, please.
Feel free.
I keep hearing this statement lately, and I'm not sure what to think about it in regards to science. I keep hearing people say science is settled. Is that if you verify the IV, is the science settled?
Yeah, empiricism is what the method offers. So if you vary a presumed cause and effect, and upon variation of your presumed cause, the effect manifests, then you've established the cause of the effect.
So the science would be settled in that case, right?
Yeah, it's empirical. What offers its empiricism is because a part of the process is to formulate a valid hypothesis, and that's got something called a null. And the null says the opposite of your prediction. So if you predict that you vary A and it causes B, B being the thing you're studying, the effect in nature you want to find out the cause of, well, if your alternative hypothesis is if I vary this A, then I will cause that B. Well, your null is if I vary this A, then I will not cause B. Now, at the end of the scientific validation of the hypothesis, that's an experiment, you vary A and see if it causes B. Now, when you do that, you have an empirical outcome because one or other of those two things is validated, proven. So if A is varied and B is manifested, then you can rule out your null. It's disproven your null. Because your null is I vary A and B doesn't happen, but you varied A and did cause B, ultimately ruling out the null hypothesis. Equally, if you do the experiment vary A and B does not happen, then you have proven your null hypothesis. Your null hypothesis was if I vary this, that will not happen. And you varied it and nothing happened. It didn't happen. It didn't manifest. But you did prove your null. Now, for that reason, one or other of the hypothesis upon actualization, that's an experiment, will be validated. And if you validate it, it's never going to change, because if it was to change, it would infer that your original alternative was actually valid. In other words, you're saying I vary A and B doesn't happen. Well, if that's wrong, then you vary A and B does happen. But that would have validated your alternative. In other words, it can only be one or other of your hypothesis if it's accurately or correctly formulated. So upon actualization, you will prove one or the other. And if you prove your alternative, you've proven the cause. Now that's, as you put it, settled, empirical.
What if A has two properties and one property is removed, but you didn't know it had two properties?
Well, then you won't cause B.
A systematic experiment.
Well, then you won't cause B. You'll vary A, and if it requires a second component, then it won't cause B. But what you'll still do in that circumstance is vary something you think causes the effect of B, and it won't cause it. So you'll still validate your null hypothesis, which was if A, I vary this, and B will happen.
But what if you don't know about the second property of the A? Like, you're not aware that there is a second property.
Science isn't easy. More often than not, people will get their null. That's what happens more often. More likely than anything, because you won't cause the effect. You'll think you've got the cause, you vary, and nothing happens. Well, what if you don't know that something else is that? Yeah, then you've got to go forward and continue with your presuming of causes for effects that you've observed in nature until you do get it right. Now, therein lies the genius, right? Someone who comes up with the actual valid IV, well, they're a genius, right? They're the ones that actually say, oh, what if it's this that causes it? They vary it, and eureka, it does cause it. Well, that's genius, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's not easy, is the point. So yeah, people come back ill from C, and why are they all dying? Well, at some point, you've got to say, well, what if it's this? What if it's that? And you try and figure out what's caused it. Is it because they're drinking seawater? So you go forth and you vary it and manipulate it. What if it's something other than seawater, connected to seawater? Well, it isn't seawater, right? It's lack of vitamin C. But what if you don't know that when you're testing seawater and it's bloody salt content, it's not the cause? Well, that's just striking off the list because you validated null. Vary the seawater, cause scurvy. Sorry, who was that?
Right. I think what he's saying though is, they didn't have vitamin C when they first figured out what scurvy. They were using fruit, right? And then they took from the fruit the vitamin C that actually helped the scurvy. That was the science part.
Well,
That's what you're saying, right?
You can have if oranges. This is the point. When he's talking about science being settled, yeah, he's settled with oranges, that you can make that statement, yeah? What you can then do is expand on your knowledge, yeah? And define, well, what is in the orange? Then we experiment with the orange. What is it within the orange? If we just shove all the rind down them, does that help them? No. Is it this? What are the components? And you break it down and you do the same experiment time and time again with all the different components of the orange. Then that gives you added scientific knowledge of exactly what it is in the orange that stops that. Yeah, it doesn't negate that first scientific statement still being correct, does it? You've just added more detail, more greater understanding.
So what Adam's saying is he's describing. Hold on, he's describing the difference between experiment and upon validation, the formulation of scientific theory. So if you had, in crude terms, if oranges, then no scurvy. And then you expand on your validated experimentation, if it was to be actually using the oranges as the IV, to find out what component of the oranges was stopping scurvy. Well, that would be part of your theory, but it's based on valid experimentation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. So the statement is still true that science. So if you first did that experiment for the first time and you said oranges are the cure to scurvy, but then you would say to someone, the science is settled, oranges cure scurvy, and then someone brings a lime along and then says that the lime cures it.
Yep.
Then And but you don't know about vitamin C, so then they would say at that time they would say science isn't settled, wouldn't they?
Well, no, it is settled, isn't it? Both oranges, scientifically, both oranges and limes do it. Now, why do both of them do it? Because one's orange and one's green. So it's not their colour. What have they got in common? That is it the same thing that's causing it in both of them? And you've got to do hundreds of different tests to get to that conclusion with different ones, and you're going to want lots of nulls to accept. So you're ruling things out, yeah. But eventually, through the method, you can get to the conclusion that oranges and limes contain vitamin C, and it's that component of these things that stops the scurvy.
Stops the
But it will
scurvy.
never falsify the premise.
But that never changes that oranges fix it and limes fix it if you've discovered that and proved that empirically. Just adding.
But at what time can you claim that? At what point can you claim the science is settled? Can you claim it the moment the orange, or do you have to keep going? Like
it's settled with regards to oranges, isn't it?
No, it's valid. It's your actualization of a valid hypothesis. At the end of that process, you have an empirical result. Either alternative or null is proven. Now, that is the bit that you are describing as being settled if you say science. Science is the scientific method, and the conclusion, if you ignore the periphery of publication, is the validation of the cause of an effect. That would be the validation of an alternative hypothesis. That's where you say science is settled.
Well, one thing settled, that's where we get the word limey.
That's correct. Didn't I tell you that?
Yeah, I heard it on your show, but I mean, I've heard that.
I heard that somewhere. Where was that? I heard that. I was on Flat Earth Debate.
No, I mean, I've heard limey before I came on your show, and then when you said it in relationship to this, it clicked.
Yeah.
I watch all the old movies.
So, anywho, yes, science proves things. That's its whole purpose. So when they say science doesn't prove things, it's normally because you asked them for science, proven it's not, and then they say, well, science doesn't prove anything anyway, it's just waiting to be changed. No, that's just so stories. Pseudoscience, if being claimed as science, by definition, is pseudoscience. And that's what they had. That's what they presented, and when we showed that it wasn't science, they just threw science under the bus.
Hey everybody. Hey,
so what about it?
Hey Brian.
Could I?
Hey guys.
Hey Ted. If that's right.
What
could
about
I just summarize on what you were saying, Nathan, to that guy?
Of course. Then lead into your part 2 Rachie video if you feel free.
Yeah. Well, maybe not now. Maybe in a few minutes I will. No, just on what you're saying is that what's settled is the way to gain the empirical knowledge. Scientific method is settled, and that gains us the knowledge that people will call science, or the way to, that is how we get the knowledge, the empirical knowledge, is through scientific method. So when they say science is settled, what's settled is the method of gaining the knowledge.
Yeah. When you say settled, I hear empirical. And where's the empiricism in science? Well, it comes at the end of an actualized hypothesis.
Well, it's clever though what they're trying to do. They're trying to say that their refracted horizon, maybe there is another variable that they're not accounting for, but it's still correct.
Yeah, but they've only got one assertion in that regard. Their variable is very simple. Their list is very short. On our side, it's endless. You talk about swells and, I don't know, tides and actual optical refractive effects and weather conditions and all the different things that we would assert are the cause of bottom-up obstruction, not to mention the optical effect of things getting too small into the distance. That would be perspective that we detailed earlier with the brick. Now, that's our long list that's very minor by comparison to how long it really is. Their list has one assertion. A physical sphere edge gets in the way. That's it. That's their only assertion.
And then they still throw it away by saying refraction.
The refraction's the same claim. It's based on 7/6 of the radius value. That's to say that they have a physical constant of r. That would be a sphere-edge horizon. Well, that's the geometry, physical hill getting in the way that they claim. So, no, that's part of the same claim. That only becomes a problem with the black swan flatsoid. So, to assert that you have a constant in the r that they assume, and they're going to hold on to it because they already know. In other words, we know we can beg the question because we can beg the question. We already know, right? Well, going into that, you say, okay, well, that gives you physical limitations at the point of the assertion that the geometric sphere-edge horizon lays at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's what a sphere would give you in physical terms. And it cannot be beyond that. So upon asserting that, well, we've got a physical limitation that blocks boats and buildings, well, why is it beyond where it can physically be? Well, because it's moved with refraction. Well, you're going to use your constant of something getting in the way to move it when you bend the light, but that can't move something that's not movable. You can't move a hill. It's physical. So it's only a problem to assert that upon realization that the black swan debunks the assertion, their only claim, that's my point, that we have a physical sphere edge for a horizon. That's their only assertion. It's the only thing in the list. And R, if you want to use it, depends on it being physical and a hill in the way. So all well and good when you're moving the target with R, not so good when you're moving the physical nature of the world itself, because that's not possible.
I'd like to go back to the previous subject.
Which was?
About the scientific method, empiricism. I'd like to go back there because there's one thing that stands out that you'll hear all the time, and it's really stupid.
Feel free. Go ahead.
Sure. Science only disproves things. Right? Now think about that. If I disprove something, what do I ipso facto do?
Prove something.
Yep. If I disprove that you're an amoeba, right?
You've proven
you're
that I'm
not a friggin' amoeba.
And you've proven that I'm not an amoeba.
Exactly. So
that's
it's
just
one of the
nonsense.
more dumber, mindless parrots that the spinning space monkeys, propagate. It's stupid. Just want to let you know because you're going to hear it.
Yeah, that's just stupid.
Well, they have to hold that, don't they? Because they can't know things. That's why they come up with that shenanigans, isn't it?
Are you on a Yeti, John?
Shut up.
Not you, the other John.
Oh, I thought you were going to dog me out.
No, I'm about to dog the other one out.
My plosives.
Are you on a Yeti, father of a stolen child?
No, I'm on a crappy phone.
Oh, okay. Don't worry about it.
Damn phones have better mics than the Yetis do. For goodness sakes. What's up with that?
That's not true. Anyway.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I get over-talked constantly by good phone mics.
Well, I'm gonna keep my comments about microphones to myself.
The reason you get overtalked by phone mics is because there's a god awful amount of compression going on. So the loudest sound is trying to be squeezed into the maximum amount of bandwidth that's allowed for that particular sound to go through because it's compressed to all hell. So it's reaching its maximum and then getting through sounding horrendous over the top of your nicely balanced mic. But it doesn't mean that you can't clip out your mic and peak it and talk over them if you choose to, but then you'll just sound horrendous also.
Right.
QE. So what you could do, QE, is throw a load of digital compressors to go through your mic, or for your mic to go through. That really cause problems then for Nathan.
I've done that. I've done that for him. So I noticed on his most recent show that he released. Sorry to talk about you in the third person, QE. That you were at an equal level even when you clipped your mic because you were popping it with your plosives that you refused to get a pop filter for. Nevertheless, the level was contained within a certain bandwidth because I'd put a compressor on him. So it sounded good.
Yeah.
But you can't control the phones.
You're putting a compressor on QE?
Can't stop it. You can't. All you can suggest to somebody who's talking to you on a phone is, please, can you back away from it a bit? And 9 times out of 10, they'll do that for about 0.3 of a second, and then they'll immediately get back on top of their mic as exactly as they were.
Ah, you missed my good statement there.
Anyway, enough technical boringness. Go on, 10th. You had a pun that we ruined.
Yeah, I said that's a visual. You putting a compressor on QE when one of his best arguments is you can't have gas pressure without container.
You're just compressing his argument, man.
What argument?
Compressor just reduces the level to stop it clipping, so it's not overloading. Anyway.
I just completed a rounded step. Hey, hey, hey.
Very good show today. The after show was fantastic.
We're still in it.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
let's not pat ourselves on the back just yet.
So far.
It's always good to talk about science because that's where it all began. In discussion, that's where this all started. You know, it's all well and good to laugh about it, but that is genuinely the origins of this debate. I'm sorry, I'll contextualize it better. When I listen back, I always think I should have contextualized that better. I am now contextually a globe head. Okay? Globe believer. Asserting to a flat earther that you, flat earther, are a science denier. And the flat earther retorts, well, what do you have in the form of science to actually present in terms of your globe belief? And the response that we currently get is science doesn't prove anything. I mean, it only disproves things, as QE just gave us an example. Well, that's a very, very drastic change from the former reply we got 2018, 2017, maybe even earlier, which was the body of science proves that we're on a sphere. The body of science proves we've got gravity. The body of science proves we've got Coriolis deviation in the form of hurricanes. The body of science proves that we've got an accurate distance to the sun. The body of science proves that we've got a sky vacuum. You know, the body of science proves we've got Earth curve. The body of science proves radius. Now, these are quotes from their side, from Rumpus. Now, why don't they say that anymore? Well, because we've asked them for science. That's it. That's the change. Chocolate saying identified it the other day. Just ask them. Okay. You say you got science for your sphere, reification and religion. Well, where's your science? Well, science doesn't prove anything. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
Yeah,
well, 2021.
Yeah, well, they can't say science.
Say again, Chocolate.
Yeah, well,
Hold on, Flat Sword. Say again, Chocolate.
No, I just said that's where we are in 2021. It's a sad state of affairs if you're a globe head.
Flat Sword?
Yeah, but I was saying they can't really claim science proves anything because they don't have a cooking clue what science really is. I mean, when you try and talk science, you say the theory of silence, and you say, but it's not a theory, and then it's a natural law, and then you understand. So they don't even actually know themselves what science is. So.
Indeed, and I think that's what 10th Man was identifying as a good part of the after show, if I'm not wrong.
Ipso facto. Ipso facto.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!